Okay, guys. Today let's see about AWS IAM. Okay, so IAM means actually Identity Access Management. Okay, so normally we manage all this authorization, authentication, everything using this IAM in AWS Cloud. So what does this AWS IAM do? It is a secure way to control access to the AWS resources. So like we will have multiple resources like EC2, S3, um, load balancers, everything, right? So in case if we are creating resources, we can't give access to each and every user. Means if we give admin access to all the users, then anyone can do anything, right? Then what is the use of okay, so we will be able to manage all the resources in AWS using this IAM. Okay, so actually we will have two important things when it comes to access. So we are seeing IAM. Okay, this is very important when it comes to security. Okay, for example, we will have different teams in our office. Okay, we will have dev team, devops, and then we will have some management team. Okay, and then we will have some monitoring team. Okay, monitoring. So dev team should have access only to the tools which they need. Like for example, if there are some tools related to development, they need only for those things. Okay, and then DevOps team need for AWS DevOps related things like EKS or else ECS and VPC. So for all these things, DevOps team need access. And in case if we have some management team, they may be having some tools deployed on AWS, and maybe they may require something like for adding user or removing user. And monitoring team, just they know, they should have read access for almost all the tools, so that they will be enabling the monitoring and they will be doing. So in case if we don't have IAM, okay, for example, let's consider we don't have an IAM and all the users have full access. Okay, all the users have full access. Then what will happen? This dev team guy may delete the resources which was created by DevOps team. Maybe not doing it wantonly, but due to he was doing some other thing and he unknowingly deletes this thing. Then what will happen? It will be an headache for DevOps team. So to manage all these things, we have a thing called IAM. Okay, so what it will do, it will give access it will give access like for the resources which is required for that particular team. So this is called identity access management. Identity access management. Okay, so when it comes to IAM, we have two things. Okay, one is authorization, authorization, and other thing is authentication. Okay, so you should understand the difference between authorization and the authentication. Okay, so what is the main difference? So for example, we have a site. Okay, let's consider IBM, and then let's consider this IBM.com as some application. Okay, you're trying to log in. Okay, so when you try to log in, you should have username and password. Okay, so without username and password, you will not be able to login into this site. Okay, so what is this is called? This is called authentication. Okay, user must have authentication like username and password to log in to the um, any of the sites. Okay, so what happens in case if IBM has like 2 lakh employees, all the 2 lakh employees will have this authentication. They will be able to log into this IBM.com. Okay, because they are their companies. Okay, and inside IBM.com, they may have different tools. Like for example, they may have some CI/CD, and then they may have some Jira. This is just for example. Okay, and then they may have some JUnit. Okay, they might have some JUnit, something like that. So authorization means the level of permission. The level of permission. So what is the level of permission? For example, if dev team is there, dev team may be having access only for Jira. Like they will have read access or else full access to Jira, but read access to CI/CD. Okay, so that is authorization. Like how much power they have. they have power entirely on Jira, but for CI/CD only read permission is there. And then we have DevOps team. So DevOps team will have full access on CI/CD, full access on Jira. Okay, and then we have testing team. So testing team will have full access on JUnit, but read access on CI/CD. So we restrict the access for the users, right? So those things are called authorization. Authorization means giving the permission only to a limited limited level. Like they will not have full access, only to a limited level they will have access. Like they can read and they cannot modify anything. Okay, so authentication is like username password. Authorization is the level of power you have over certain components in the organization. Okay, so if we come here, it allows managing who can access resources, what they can do, and how they can access them. So what they can do means this is called authorization. How they access them? Using authentication. Okay. So free to use. Charges are only for the AWS services being accessed. So the services which you use, only for them you will be paying. Other than that, IAM, creating IAM and other things are free. Okay. So why IAM is important? Because it is a security and compliance center. Okay, all the security and compliance related to all the applications will be taken care by this IAM. Okay, and it also helps enforce the principle of least privilege. Least privilege means in case if a user just wants to read something from S3 bucket, you should give just read permission. You shouldn't give full access. Okay, so giving the minimum required permission to the user is called least privilege. Okay, and it enables the granular control and auditing. Okay, granular controlling means, for example, like granular means minute, so you can just give the access which is required. Okay, you shouldn't give the entire access. And in case if you are auditing any of the permissions, then also it will be very helpful. Okay, and then what are the key IAM components? So key IAM components are IAM user. Okay, so when you by default, for example, we have an AWS account. Okay, which we will have an AWS account. So if you have an AWS account, uh, one a user can log into AWS account, right? So so that user should have username and password. Okay, that user should have username and password. So we can create multiple users, because in case if we take in company will have like 2 lakh users or 3 lakh users. Okay, so each and every user should have a username and password, right? So we can create users in a IAM. Okay, so it can have like username, and we can give programmatic access or else console access. The console access means it will be with passwords. Programmatic access means it is with access keys. Okay, for example, a developer who needs to manage his two instances, we can give access to like programmatic access or console access based on his requirement. Okay, and what happens? For example, we have a user. Okay, we have a user, and we give him some permission. We give him some permission, but let's assume this is user one. Okay, then we have user two. Then again we have to give him same access. User 3, some other access. Okay, and user 4. So we have to give some other access for him. Well, let's assume this user 1 and user 2 are from same team. Okay, this user 1 and user 2 are from same team, and this user 3 and user 4 are from like same team. So they are like teammates. Okay, so instead of giving same access for multiple users, here I am just taking an example with two users. Let's assume we have 100 users. Instead of giving you access to 100 users separately, what we can do, we can create a group. Okay, so in companies we will have teams, right? Teams and different groups. So we can create a group and we can give permission to the group. Okay, for example, we need like S3 full access. Okay, we have created a group with S3 full access. So when I add this user 1 and user 2, this user 1 and user 2 automatically they will get S3 full access, because it will inherit the permissions from this group. Okay, similarly we can create another group for this one, and when you add users inside this group, automatically they will get this access. Okay, so instead of creating access for each and every user, you can create a group and you can add users to that one. Okay, so that is called IAM groups. Okay, it is collection of users. Permissions assigned to group apply to all the members. Okay, useful for managing permissions for the teams. Okay, and then we have something called IAM role. Okay, so um, in case if you want to temporarily give access to any of the users, okay, temporarily identify identity a temporary identity for accessing AWS resources. So what will happen? Like instead of giving full permission, particular user needs access only for certain duration. Okay, a certain duration or for certain application. Then you can create IAM roles. Okay, and that the user can assume this role, and then you will be getting access to that one. Okay, and the policies. So policies are two types. Okay, one is managed policies. Managed policies means AWS will provide that policy and they will manage those things. Okay, and we have inline policy. Okay, these inline policies are like we create them and we use it by ourselves. For example, we have seen this role, right? For even role, we have to create a role using this inline policy. So what is this policy will have? So here the version of that IAM, and then inside statement we are giving effect allow. We can have allow or deny. Okay, and action is S3. So it is for only for S3. For example, if you give star instead of S3, if you give only star, then for all resources like EC2, IAM, auto scaling group, route 53, everything. Okay, for everything you will give access. Okay, and resources like example they have given some bucket, and for only for that bucket this will allow. Okay, like whatever you want to do you can do. Okay, like this you can give policies. And then we have something called identity providers. Okay, so in case if you have using any of the applications and all, you will have something called single sign-on. Okay, so what you can do, instead of creating your user account each and every time, you can use some Gmail account or Facebook account, and then you can identify yourself as a user, and then you will be able to log in. Okay, so those things are called SSO, like single sign-on applications. Okay, and then we have something called multi-factor authentication. So multi-factor authentication means for including the additional security, we can set up like once you enter the password, you may get an OTP or you may get a call. So by answering that one, you will be able to answer that one. Like you will be able to um, uh, enable the multi-factor authentication. Okay, so this is what this is. Okay, now let's see some demo. Okay, so we have seen this, right? Let's so we have seen this IAM, right, till now. See, if you see here, IAM user sign in. Okay, so what happens in case if we log in as root user, we will have the admin privileges. But in case if we are creating some IAM user, we can give IAM username and IAM password. Okay, so that we will be able to log in as well. Okay, and this is our account ID. Okay, now let me log in as admin account, and then let me try to create an IAM user. Okay, so we have logged into the AWS console. Now let's try to create an IAM account. So you can just type IAM, so we will get the IAM. Okay, so if you see, normally it will be like this. Now we have different things like user group, users, roles, policies, all these things. Okay, now let's go to users. Okay, so there are no users now. Okay, now let me try to create an user. Okay, like test one. Okay, this is the user, and then I will provide user access to the AWS management console. Okay, just select this one, and then here, um, I will just I want to create an IAM user. Okay, and then here it is asking for auto generated password. I will just give custom password. So it should be alphanumerical, and then here it is asking like user must create a new password at next sign in. So in case if you are creating a new user, and when you select this one, you can share the password which we generated, and next time when the user try to log in, actually the it will ask for the new password. Okay, then user can set his own password, but for now anyway I am only using, right, so I'm just deselecting this one. Okay, so I'm just clicking next. So if you see here, we have different permission options. Okay, so we can add user to a group, or else, for example, if we already have an user with certain permission, for example, we have an user like John, and we are creating another user, Mike. In case if you want to give the permission like same permissions as John to Mike, then you can just select this one and give. Okay, otherwise we can create policies as well. So we have seen this, right? Policies, so we can give these policies as well. Okay, so leader, let's try to add a user. Okay, so for now we don't have any groups, just I will just click on next. Okay, and then create user. Okay, so user account created successfully. Okay, now I will just open a tab in incognito mode. Sign in. So I have created a user called test1. Okay, let me try. So account ID. Okay, the account ID will be your ID. So this is the account ID. Just copy this one. Okay, and then you can go to this one, paste it, and then username is test1. Okay, and password, the password which I have given. In case if you are just sharing, then actually it will be, yeah, they will be able to change on the next login. Okay, I will just give sign in. Okay, if you see, the test1 user we have created and is able to log in. Okay, but what is the thing? By default, when we create a user, you will not have access to anything. Okay, so if you see, we don't have access for anything. Let me try to create an S3 bucket. Okay, we have S3. Let me try to create a S3 bucket. By default, you will not have any permission when you create a user. Okay, so I will just go here and I will try to create a bucket. I'll just give the name as test something. Everything let it be default. I will just try to create a. Okay, if you see here, networking error. Okay, check your network connection and reload the page. So it is not able to create anything. Okay, so it will not work because we have not given any permission. Okay, now I will just go to that main account. I'll just go to main account. So here we have the admin access, right? Now let's go to users. Okay, continue. So we have test one. Okay, now I will go here and then I'll just add permission. Okay, so by default this test one user doesn't have any permission policies, so I can go to add permission and click on add permission. Okay, and then here um, like attach policies directly. Okay, so when I click on attach policies directly, we can give some admin access. Okay, I'll just give admin access. So for example, I'll just select this administrator access and then I will click on next. Okay, so I will add permission. Okay, now one policy is attached. Okay, so just go here, launch instance, test, let it be everything as default. key pair, create key pair, one create key pair, launch template. So the user is able to create an EC2 instance. Okay, even though he didn't have any access, now we have given him admin access. Okay, so because of this, he is able to create the EC2 instance. Now what we can do? Now let's create another user. Okay. Now let's try to create user group. Okay, user group. Create group. I'll just give the name as group one. Okay, and then add user to the group. So actually we have only one user, right? So let me add him to this group. Okay, this test one user, I will add him, and then I'm giving some administrator accesses to this one. Okay, so I'm again attaching this administrator access, and then I'll create this group. Okay, so now we have this group. This group has admin access, right? Now I will go and create another user. Okay, user. So I will create new user. This user is called test2. Okay, and then provide this not required, click next. Okay, now what I will do, I will add this user to the group. So previously we didn't add, now we are not giving any access, we are directly adding into the group. So if you see here, so instead of giving permission to each and every user, we can add them directly in the group. So in case if we give permission to this group, so automatically the user who are inside this group will get the access. So what we have done, we have created the group one. Okay, and then we have given the access like full admin access to this group. Now I am creating the user 2 here. Okay, test2 user. So I will just add him to this group, and then next, create user. Okay, now test2 user is created. Now we are in users, we have test2 user. We didn't give any access to this test2 user, right? Now I will click this test2 user. In the permissions, you see, automatically it got the admin access. How it got? Because that group which we added this user has the admin access. Because of that, we have got this user. Okay, now if you want, we can just log into this user, and we can perform the activities like admin activities, everything can be performed. Okay, so this is how users and user groups work. Okay, now what happens? Now let's go to user, uh, user test one. I will just remove this access, remove this access. So this user doesn't have any thing permission, like this user doesn't have any permission, right? Now let's go to here. Now previously I logged in as test one and I was able to create the instance. Okay, now let me try to create the instance. See, you are not authorized to perform this operation. Why? Because we removed the access. If you see here, we removed the access, right? So it has automatically come here. You are not authorized to perform this action. We have just come to EC2 and it is showing this one. Let me retry. Same thing. Okay, like this, we will be able to add or remove permissions to the users. Okay, now let's go here. Now we have removed the access. Now what we can do? Now we can create the role. Okay, create the role. Create role. So actually we are using AWS account, right? So in case if we are using some AWS EC2 Lambda or EC2, then we can use this one. Now we are playing with the AWS accounts, right? So select AWS account, and here we have an option. For example, this account is this one. Okay. In case if you want to give access to some other account, you can select another AWS account. So I am just using this account, and then click on next. Okay, so I am giving just permission for EC2 full access. So here you have. Okay, so and guys, one more thing, let me come back. So all these permissions are like AWS managed one. Okay, if we have come here, so we have two things, right? One is like managed policies, like AWS provided. So all these things which I am using is AWS provided. We have something called inline policies. So these things we will be creating automatically. Okay, by ourselves. So let me select this one, EC2 full access. Where is this? Okay, I will just create role, AWS account, this account. Next, and then here I am selecting the permission EC2 full access. I am just selecting this one. Next, and then role name, um, AWS role for EC2. Okay, and then if you see, it has automatically given this one, right? See, if you see, this is the version, and the under statement, it is allowing, and what it is allowing, it is allowing us to assume role. Okay, and the principal. So AWS, which account it is assuming the role, this is the account number. Okay, so if we, you see, add permission, this is the permission, and then you can create the role. Okay, so the AWS role for EC2 is created. So if you come here, if you see, this is the role we created, right? So the role is created. So those who assume this role, they will have access to EC2, okay? But they will not have access to any other thing apart from EC2, okay? Now what we can do? Now let's try to assume this role, okay? So how to assume? So we have created the roles. Now let's go to users, okay? So let's take test one user. So it didn't have any permission, right, previously. So for example, if we come here, let's see one more time. So if you see, you don't have any permission. This is the test one user. We have logged in as test one user, right? So he's not able to do anything in the EC2. Now what we can do? Now we have created access only for EC2. So we are in test user. If you see, we are in test one user. Okay, users test one. So we are in this test one user. So here in the add permission, instead of add permission, previously we are using the add permission, right? This add permission, it was just adding the default AWS permissions. Now we can create inline policy. Okay. So when we select that one, okay. So if we see here we can select the service. Okay. Um, so we can select a service. So I will just select EC2, and then if we see actions allowed, okay. So here I will just okay, I will just select all EC2, and then it is allow. Okay, select all, click next, policy name, test policy. Okay, and then the service is EC2. I'll just create policy. Okay, so we have created a policy, and then this user, you will have full permission. Okay, if you see, we have this user. Okay, so the policy permission is assigned. So now let's go to that user now. Yeah, if you see, again the user got the full permission. Okay, so this is how we create the inline policies. Okay, so you can specify the particular access, and then the user will be able to access. So previously that user didn't have the permission, right? So now after we allocated the permission in this, the user is able to access the EC2 again. Okay, so this is how the roles will be assigned. Okay, and apart from this, yeah, so these are the main things, guys. So users, user groups, and roles. And policies, we have created a policy. So we have all this policy. Just you have to give the granular permission. Granular permission means the permission which is required for the user. Okay. So now we have given the user easy to access, right? We didn't give full access. Okay. Now test policy. Okay, and then the service is easy to. I'll just create policy. Okay, so we have created a policy, and then this user, you will have full permission. Okay, if you see, we have this user. Okay, So the policy permission is assigned. So now let's go to that user now. Yeah, if you see, again the user got the full permission. Okay, so this is how we create the inline policies. Okay, so you can specify the particular access and then the user will be able to access. So previously that user didn't have the permission, right? So now after we allocated the permission in this, the user is able to access the EC2 again. Okay, so this is how the roles will be assigned. Okay, and apart from this, yeah, so these are the main things, guys. So users, user groups, and roles. And policies, we have created a policy. So we have all this policy. Just you have to give the granular permission. Granular permission means the permission which is required for the user. Okay. So now we have given the user easy to access, right? We didn't give full access. Okay. Now container service create test create. So if you see here, access denied. If you see here, when we try to create the container, it is throwing error. Okay, because the user doesn't have access. So when we check this EC2, this permission, EC2, we have given full permission, right? So that user is able to create that VPC also. So this is how IAM works, guys. Okay, so if you see, this user has access to EC2. We have given EC2 full access, right? He has full access to EC2. He has full access for elastic load balancing, CloudWatch, auto scaling, and then linked roles. Okay, he has full access for all those things, like EC2 scheduling, spot fleet, transit gateway. So all these permissions that user has. Okay, um, that's it, guys.